Hi, this is Bill Cecil, and welcome to episode number 20 of my Best Year Ever or Bust podcast series. The podcast series designed to help uplift, motivate, and empower you to make every year as a teacher your best year ever by helping to uplift, motivate, and empower your students to make it their best year ever. Despite any and all challenges you face, you will not let anyone or anything stop you from completing your mission to make it happen. Again, I want to thank you for taking time to take a listen today. And I want to thank all of you for sharing this podcast series with other heroes like yourself, hoping to uplift, motivate, and empower them to help make a difference every day in their classrooms as well. So it means a lot to me that you're doing that. Thank you very, very much. So what I'd like to do today is I would like to think of today's episode as sort of it's a part of our journey, but it's sort of a time to maybe pull over. If this was like a long trip, we're going to pull over at a rest area and we're going to take a look at our map to see where we've been and also to get a sense of where we're going and to stretch our legs, just kind of relax a little bit before we embark again on the journey full force, getting back on the highway and continuing on our journey, so to speak. So what I want to do is I want to kind of first take a look at back where we've been. If you think about it again, the goal of this podcast series is to really help to keep you uplifted, motivated, and empowered to make every year as a teacher your best year ever by having it in you, the strength and the mission and the sense of purpose in you to help your students make it their best year ever. And so despite any and all challenges. And so what I'm trying to do is the first 19 episodes, I think I was trying to hit all those targets, but the one I was really trying to hit the most is to empower you. And even though that came last in the list of 3, it's the one that I wanted to provide you with actual tools you could use in your classroom and with your students' parents, as you found out in the last 4 episodes that I did, that I want to give you strategies that you can use, they can use, meaning the students and your students' parents, where you can all be working together to make this the best year ever. So it's not all on your shoulders. And the whole point of this was to help minimize and to eliminate some of the challenges that you're going to face. And so if you remember in the first part, I started with you. I gave you 3 doable plans. The first doable plan was for you to use as the leader of your team. And I gave you the 4 strategies I call setting the table for success, which is, number 1, I wanted to help you create a shared vision or sense of mission on your team to get everybody focusing on the same target all year long, moving in the same direction so you have more engagement and less, time in your classroom where you're trying to get everybody at least going in the same direction. Like I did when I covered the person throwing the darts in the example and then moved the dartboard. There were darts all over the room. And I said, those were like your students. No, I want you to be the second person that was throwing darts, unblindfolded, clear view of the target, everybody on board with you, everybody going in the same direction and seeing all those darts, which are your individual students all around swarming, if not on that dartboard with you. And so that's the whole point. And then the second thing I wanted to do is take time to build your team of students. They come to you as students from different, places, different teachers, different whatever, and they're going to be a little guarded. And so what I want you to do is to be able to go in there, tear down those walls. Remember, wall building nesters, tear down those walls, get them moving around, start to build trust on your team. The best way to do that, I said, was by doing some team building activities to help them start interacting with each other in a fun way that helps to tear down those walls and to help them start building trust with each other and working together as a team. And then from there, it's again more management type thing. I wanted you to help to teach, model, practice, and celebrate the procedures you want your team to follow so that you're not wasting precious time in your classroom every day having to reteach them the procedures every day or remind them what the procedures are. And so it really helps to take away a lot of the frustration and wasted time so you have more time to teach and your kids will have more time to learn. And finally, the last one, which really is probably one of the most important, because I said you can't teach until you can master this strategy, and you can't lead your team until you really can master this strategy. And that is to take time to create and consistently enforce your team rules. And I said that, again, in one of the episodes. You can go back and listen to that. It's one of the earliest episodes, how you can take time to work with your students to build those rules. And then I gave you some guidelines of how to do that, 5 rules or less, keep them positive, things like that. And then once you do that, to also then to consistently enforce the rules and consequences. And again, a lot of those consequences could be positive consequences because you've given them incentives to work for, not just some small things that you might take away to make them have to earn those, because you need leverage in the classroom, right? You can't fire your students. You can do that in the real world, but you can't do that in your classroom. And so you got to have some leverage in things you can have them earn and things you can sort of take away when need be to help them want to earn those things again. And so that was the first doable plan I gave you. And then the second doable plan I gave you was really for your students. The 3-word doable plan: attendance, attitude, and effort. Remember, you do these 3 words, I'll do the rest. I can guarantee you'll have your best year ever. I'll do the rest if you master these 3 words. It's what I hope you told your students. And you took time to teach and model each of those 3 words so they understand what it is. The first one, attendance. You got to show up. You can't have your best year ever if you don't show up. The second one is attitude, right? You got to have a positive mindset coming into school each day where you're looking for things to get excited about so you'll find them. You're programming your brain to look for them so you'll find them, and also to come in with a sense of belief in yourself, to believe you can achieve, right? That positive growth mindset. It's not, I wasn't born with this ability, or I don't have that kind of talent. No, it's I can make it happen by setting my mind to do it, coming in looking for ways to make it happen, and stick with it. Keep giving the third word, effort, long enough to make it happen. And again, that includes the word perseverance, right? Don't give up. Keep going until you put in enough effort to get what you want. So that was the second doable plan. And then the third doable plan, which I just covered again in these last 4 episodes, was how to get your parents more involved, how to keep them involved throughout the school year, because again, research shows that when you get the parents involved and stay involved, it has so many positive effects on the students in your classroom that helps them not only do well in the classroom, get better grades, and be more adapted to what's going on and feel more relaxed and enjoy it more, but it's also going to help to create that lifelong love of learning that's going to carry over into their life and help them be successful throughout their lives as well. So that was really the main focus of the first 19 episodes. And again, I know I threw a lot at you, so that's why I'm going to pull back just a little bit today and not pound you with a bunch of strategies, some more to-dos. I just want to sort of today, and really in these next future episodes, for a while at least, to start focusing more on trying to uplift and motivate you more than empower you with more strategies. I'll still be throwing some of those in, but I really want to just have some episodes you can go to when you need to fill your tank again, or when you're feeling down and maybe you need that pep talk, that you'll have a couple episodes or a few episodes throughout this that you can go to and say, yeah, I just need to be pumped up today. I'm going to listen to this episode number again to really help pump me up. And so that's really what I want to focus on today. Now, my guess is, while we're sitting here looking at where you've been, my hope is that if you, and my guess, if you have taken the 30-day challenge that I gave you back, I think it was in episode number 7 or 8, the doable challenge, to take that challenge for 30 days to help build your team by using these doable plans, especially the setting the table for success 4 strategies that I talked about, right? That if you actually committed to those for 30 days, that you're actually seeing some of your challenges be eliminated, hopefully minimized, right? Maybe you're not seeing as many challenges as you have seen in the past. My guess by now is that, because I've said winning teams attract fans, if you've really been sticking to these challenges, or that challenge, that 30-day challenge, and since then you've kept going, I don't know where you are in your school year, obviously, because I'm not in your classrooms to know, but my guess is you're past 30 days if you're sitting on episode number 20 today, right? And so my hope is that you are seeing some results. But here's my fear. My fear is that some of you might still be having some challenges in your classroom, and you're thinking, Bill, come on. I've dedicated myself to this best year ever or bust. I'm on episode 20, and I still got challenges in my classroom. It's just not working. I thought it was going to be better by now. I thought things were going to be going great. Look, my hope is that you are seeing some really good improvements, that you're not feeling that at all. But remember what I said. Early in the very first episode, I gave you a disclaimer. I said best year ever doesn't equal perfect year ever or challenge-free year ever. And there's a reason I said that. It's because I truly believe, after 31 years of teaching and knowing so many other teachers, I believe that no matter what kind of a year you're having, it could be one of your best, truly your best years ever, right? You're still going to have challenges. And so, like I told you early on, and I think I've repeated it a couple times, at least through these episodes, is that in teaching, it's a profession that I believe is a very challenging profession. In fact, I think it's one of the most challenging professions you could embark upon. And yet, I also think it's one of the most rewarding professions you could embark upon. I never said it's going to be challenge free. Best Year Ever or Bust isn't about making it challenge free. It's about learning to take on the challenges that you get in front of, or that get in front of you and try to hold you back from making it happen, your mission happen, to make it the best year ever for your students so you can make it the best year ever for yourself, right? It's that mindset, that 100% mindset of I'm all in. I'm 100% all in. Nothing's going to stop us. Best Year Ever or Bust, baby. We're going to make it happen no matter what, right? And so it's giving you that mindset, that grit, that determination that's going to make it happen. But the reason why I shared in the first 19 episodes 3 doable plans for you is to minimize as many challenges as possible, to eliminate as many challenges as possible. So I hope you have seen that. But at no time, moving forward, do I ever expect you to be challenge free, because really it wouldn't be much fun if there's no challenges. I mean, seriously, if I was in a soccer game and we're playing against a team that never played soccer before and we were a very good team, we'd run over them, but that wouldn't be fun at all. There's no challenge in that. Sometimes I'd rather lose and be challenged in a game than just to totally demolish a team and not even have any fun demolishing them. You feel bad doing it, right? So challenges, I want you to start reframing how you see challenges, and that's what I'm going to be talking about in these future episodes. But I still want to get you prepared to take on the challenges that you will face. I've been talking about helping you minimize and eliminate. Now I want to focus on taking on the challenges that you will face the best you can to stay strong, to stay motivated, to stay mission purposed and mission focused, hyper focused to make it happen. All right. And so with that in mind, oh, by the way, and there's a reason why you'll always have challenges. This is important. I'm going to back up and make sure I pick this up. I was looking at a journal entry recently. I was looking at some old journals, basically. I've been a journal writer since college, and I have volume after volume after volume of journals. I don't write every day, but I write often in my journals, and I process. It's sort of like my own personal place where I can go and just vent or let things out or talk about some of my victories and my frustrations without, just unfiltered. I can just let it out in these journals. Nobody else is to read these. And I got to tell you, I was looking for some new things to talk about and going back and looking for some examples from my classroom that I've written about. And as I started to read my journal, not just about school, but just about life in general, I noticed that there's a lot more struggles that I was dealing with than victories. And I think a lot of people, sometimes they can look at you and assume that, oh man, you're the guy that talks about best year ever. That means every year just must be perfect for you. You were named Michigan Teacher of the Year in 2003, whatever. You've just had it so easy, and people want their kids in your room. It just must all be gravy for you. How lucky you are. They don't know. Just like we don't know about anybody in our lives, what kind of struggles they're carrying with them, right? Everybody has struggles. Everybody has insecurities. Everybody has off days. Everybody has challenges in their life, including myself. And I'm not great at sharing those, especially when I speak, because I think my job is to uplift, motivate, and empower you. But starting next week and moving forward, I'm going to talk more about some of my struggles in the classroom. But today, I'm going to talk about how, in general, I think life is kind of messy sometimes. Facebook and social media sometimes gives us visions of the perfect life some people have because they can edit it any way they want, filter it, take out what they don't want you to see, only put on what they do want you to see. I was reading a book recently talking about how the moon, we only see one side of the moon, the part that shines, right? It's just really beautiful. But if you talk to astronauts that saw the other side of the moon, which we never see on Earth, we never see the dark side of the moon, that it's full of pock marks and big gashes and gouges where meteorites, because it wasn't protected from the Earth, have smashed into it and just really made it a very rough, tough looking surface. And it also doesn't have the light of the sun shining off of it. And so it's just a totally different atmosphere. What reminds me of, I've told you I work at a place called Ellie's Place. And we do an activity where the kids decorate masks. And on the masks, they put on the outside of the mask feelings that they show other people. They're comfortable showing other people. And on the inside of the mask, they write down words and feelings and symbols or whatever that represent how they feel on the inside that they don't show very many other people or anyone at all. It's people tend to do this, right? And so I think after reading my journal again today, I was even shocked. Wow, 30 years ago, I was struggling with this, or I was upset about these things, and I totally forgot about those. But I remember most of the good times, and other than big things that are sad in my life or bad, I tend to forget those because they get outshined by all the good things that you finally get to when you're striving to do something and you've had struggles or challenges. You tend to forget some of the bad parts of that, and you start to remember the good. And so you look back at your life and you're like, yeah, that's pretty cool. But as I was reading this journal, going back through some of the pages of these journals, I started going, oh my gosh, there's some things in here I don't even want to read again because I don't want to relive those. I don't want to rehash those. I want to remember more of the good things, and that's what we tend to do, at least. So for me, when I say best year ever, at the end of the year, I don't sit there and go, yeah, but I want to remember this went bad that day, this happened on that day, and I'll never forget that day when that, Jimmy, he caused me trouble, and, there's the phone ringing. I knew Jimmy must have got his parents upset about something. Whatever. I don't do that, right? I remember all the good things, and if the good things, it's like a scale. If they far outweigh the challenges that we had to work hard and overcome, that's what I remember, and that's what best year ever is all about. That's what life hopefully is all about. That when it's all said and done, you're going to look back at more of the good things and go, oh man, I had a great life. But I'm here to tell you that life is messy. All right. In fact, I told that to my wife today, and her eyes got really big. I said, what's going on? And she said, Bill, I just read that in a book. She likes this author named Matthew Kelly, and she was reading a book, I guess just today or recently, and she said, Bill, I just read this chapter. You got to see this. And she opened it up, and it said, life is messy. And I've never even used that expression before. I've never seen that before that I remember. And I just said life is messy because I was talking about my journal entries and saying how, you just have to be careful how you see things sometimes in life. And I said, life is messy, but hopefully we remember more of the good things. And so we were talking about that. So today, before I started this episode, I started thinking about a story that I wanted to share with you, and it has nothing to do with teaching other than the fact it happened after a long teaching day. I ran out to my car to run to this bank to get some money that I needed I had a meeting at 3 o'clock. I got out at 2:30. I basically had a half hour to kill. I didn't want to just sit in my classroom. So I said, I'm going to run to the bank, get the money so that after my meeting, and I have to go to this other event where I need some money to pay for parking or whatever, that I don't have to stop at the bank when I'm running late or this or that and be stressed out. So I'm going to go now. So it was a great plan. It made perfect sense. I had easily a chance to get to the bank and back. And so what happened was, I went to the bank, and I remember it's only a couple miles from work, so it was going to be an easy, quick and go drive. I'd probably be back 15 minutes ahead of time. Back then, though, remember, I'm old. We didn't have drive-through banking, so you had to actually go into the bank. But at this time, it was exciting because they were starting to put, not in the lobby, but in the doors between the doors outside and the doors into the bank, there's a little area, and they had these on the wall, these ready teller machines that you could go in and pull in money or deposit money. Now we have them in stores, we have them in gas stations, we have them almost everywhere you go. But back then, it was only in the banks. But it was a big deal to be able to run in real quick and not have to stand in line with a teller. You could just go off the machine, one or two people wait in line, put in your card, get your money and go. And that's exactly what I was doing. I get there, and so I go in, I get my money, and I'm walking out. I'm in the parking lot, and everything's, like, oh, this is perfect. I'm making it plenty of time. The traffic doesn't look too bad, even though I'm on the two busiest streets in my area. It's right at the corner, the bank is. And as I'm walking back to my car, all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, I hear this screaming, no, stop. And I can hear it, and it's a distance away. And there's a grocery store about 200 yards away. And it's way at the other end of this massive parking lot, way down the street. And I can see this man running towards the bank that I'm at. He's still very far away, and this woman is screaming, and behind her it looks like a guy in a security guard outfit running after the woman, trying to catch up with her, and she's chasing after this man who has something in his hand, and he's running. And I'm watching this, and I'm trying to decide what to do because I got to get back to my meeting, but this woman is screaming, and it's making me uncomfortable. So as I'm looking one more time, he's getting closer, and I can see that he's really running towards the bank, or there's a Subway shop across the street on this busy corner. He looked like he was sort of running in between both. And so I'm like, so I just started running after this guy because I could tell something was wrong by the way that she was screaming. And the security guard was now starting to catch up with the woman, but he had a pretty good lead on them. And he was getting closer to me than obviously they were to him. And so I decided I'm going after this guy. So I started running after this guy. I didn't even really have a plan. I was just chasing this guy. And as he saw me, he was starting to get to the corner where he was going to cross from the bank to get away from me to go over to the Subway shop. And just then I got close enough that I just jumped on this guy's back. I got to kid you not. As soon as I made that decision, I realized that's probably the worst decision I've ever made. This guy was like a brick house. He's huge, and I got my arms around his neck, and I can barely hold on. And he's bucking me off, swearing at me to try to get me off. And I'm like holding on, and all of a sudden I just thought, if I let go, he's going to stomp him. He's probably going to beat me up. So I just go all in, and I squeeze as hard as I can with both hands so he doesn't buck me off. And I'm holding on, and as he hits the curb, he falls face forward onto the sidewalk, and I fall on top of him. And before either one of us could move, we're both being maced in the face with this pepper spray, and it's just hitting us, and we both are screaming, and we can't move. It paralyzes you. We're lying there on this cement on this busy corner. I'm still holding on because I'm scared, but I can't see, and I'm coughing, and this guy's doing the same. He's coughing and he's screaming, like and he can't move. We're both like paralyzed from this mace, and the security guard's yelling at us, "Don't move or I'll mace you again. Don't you move, don't you move." And he's yelling at me, "Hang on, don't you let go of him. Hang on, stay where you're at." And I'm laying on this guy, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm trying to catch my breath. And all of a sudden, I start to like catch my wind, and I'm starting to see a little bit. And the guy says, "Okay, you can sit up, but don't move. Don't get off him. Sit up. You're all right. Sit up. Just stay there." He kept saying, "If you get up and try to move, I'm going to mace you. But you told me you can get up, sir. You can get up." And he's tapping me on the shoulder. So I start to sit up. And just as I start to sit up, I'm rubbing my eyes, and I can see there's traffic backed up at this four-way corner with cars every which way because obviously we've stopped traffic. And so all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, and the guy starts screaming on the ground, face down. He's like, "Pull up my pants, pull up my pants, pull up my pants." And I'm barely looking, and I look down, and the guy's pants have fallen down. We're sitting on this busy corner with me sitting on this guy's back, and his pants are down by his ankles. And I kid you not, this kid in a window of one of the cars rolls down her window. She yells out the window, "Hey, Mr. Cecil, how you doing?" And I'm like, I can barely see her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And the guy finally says, "You can stand up. You stand up. You stay down." And he has his foot on the back. He says, "I'm going to make you if you move." And he tells me to stand up, and I stand up. And he says, "Can you help me pull up his pants?" I said, "No, dude, you pull up his pants. I'm not going to touch this." And so he pulled up the pants, and all of a sudden I'm standing there, and he has the guy down, and he starts looking at me, and he goes, "Hey, I appreciate your help, but I can take it from here." I said, "Okay, thank you." I got up, I walked across the street, get in my car, still kind of stunned by this whole thing. There's still traffic, and I get in my car, drive the other way out of the parking lot from the bank back on the road. And believe it or not, I still made it to my meeting on time. All of this took less than half an hour. I was still shaking in the meeting, and I remember people saying, "Bill, what's going on? You look kind of disheveled. You're not acting like yourself." I finally told them this story, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that." I said, "I didn't even think. I just did it." And so when I got home, my wife scolded me and told me, "Don't ever do that again." I said, "Honey, I didn't think I'd do it that time. It's just one of those things. I just reacted." Now, I tell you this story for a reason. Life is messy. No way in my mind did I think when I was going to the bank 30 minutes before a meeting that I was going to run into this kind of trouble. But sure enough, I did. I started to think about this story, and this is why I told you this story. I started to break it down in my mind, and I was thinking how parts of this story absolutely captures what happens when we deal with unforeseen challenges. Because life is messy, and in the classroom, it's going to be messy too, and at times you're going to have unforeseen challenges. And so one of those is that when I went to the store, to the bank, and I'm walking back out to my car with plenty of time, I'm thinking, my day's going perfect, not a problem in the world. But then all of a sudden I hear screaming, and that's when my challenge popped in front of me. I didn't choose this challenge. It popped in front of me, right? Just like many challenges do. They come out of the blue, and now we have to deal with them. We have to forget what we were going to do. It changes our agenda. And we have a choice in these moments. We can ignore them. We can decide that, it's somebody else to deal with. They can resolve it, or we can hope that everything's okay, but we're not going to get our hands, involved in this, so we decide not to deal with it at all. Or we can decide that we're going to take a closer look and decide what to do. Decide, maybe to explore it and see, should I get involved or not? And that's what I did. I decided maybe I better run and get a little bit closer, see what's going on. And by the time I got up to this guy, I knew something was going on. And so I dove on the guy. And that's where I decided to roll up my sleeves and dive in, right? I didn't just kind of, hey, guy, could you tell me, stop, what's going on? I think you might be up to something. I just dove on him because I knew I had to do something. I dove right in. I'm not saying that was a smart thing in that case to do. Sometimes we dive right in and we have to make a decision. Hey, let's go. It's like I said with Best Year Ever Bust, 100% all in. And that's what I decided to do. But what was interesting was when I jumped on the guy and I knew I was in trouble, something kicked in that I didn't tell you about in the story, and that is that it started to go in slow motion. When we were on the street, from the minute I caught hold of his neck and he started bucking me off, and I realized how big he was and that this guy was seriously going to be a threat to my livelihood if he somehow got a hold of me, I knew I had to do something. And so I was either going to let go and run and maybe try to get away, or I felt the safest thing at that point was I was going to grab him even harder, not to let him buck me off, and maybe hopefully the security guard would catch up to us and help me out. But what happened was he tripped over the curb. When I grabbed his neck, he took his eye off the curb and he tripped and he fell. And that's what happens sometimes when we dive all in. It's like almost like the universe conspires to help us out sometimes, or that because we're starting to think calmly, right? I was calm in my thinking. I was slowing down thinking, what do I do? And that helped me. And if we can do that, then what happens is we start to think more clearly, right? It's like the yellow kayak syndrome. If we start thinking in a calm way, looking for solutions, we're most likely going to find them. It's like that Google search. If we Google certain words like I need help with, it's going to give you some suggestions. But if we calm our mind in certain situations when life gets messy, we can think clearly and make better decisions. And I think I made the right decision when I decided to hold on tighter instead of just letting go and maybe just hoping for the best. So that's how it worked out for me. The other thing that I took from this is that often there's times when it's good to work with others, right? Don't try to solve all your challenges alone. And that's what happened. I tried to help those people that were running, the woman and the security guard, because something was obviously coming out of the store that wasn't right. And so I helped them bring the guy, slow the guy down enough. I didn't stop him. I think he stopped himself when he hit the curb and me holding on to him. But the point is, we worked as a team. And then once we were even down, the security guard guy maced us and threatened to mace us again to keep everybody still and in place so we couldn't move and he could do what he had to do to finally get me up and out of there and for him to be there and take care when the cops came to hand him over and explain what was going on. So teamwork, you got to look for teamwork, right? When spider webs unite, they can tie up a lion. And so that's the same thing in the classroom. When life gets messy, don't try to do it all yourself. Don't have this pride that says, I can't work with anybody else. Find people to work with and work with them. Find a way to make it happen if you need to, and be there to help others when they need it too. And I have to say, and this is something I learned from that lesson as well, and that is even in tough spots, even in the midst of a challenge, a challenge that you're in over your head and you think you're not going to make it, try to find some humor in it or things to keep you going, to keep your spirits going so you don't quit too soon. And that's what this podcast series is about. I'm trying to be that thing in your life that kind of keeps you going when you do face challenges in the classroom. And then finally, if you do all that, you have a better chance of reaching your goal. I didn't set out to reach a goal to try to help stop somebody that maybe did something wrong in the store and there was people upset and people after them, and I just happened to be there to slow it down so they could sort it all out. But my goal was to get to the bank and back to school to make my 3 o'clock meeting, which I did. And so sometimes, you never know how you're going to get there, but you still make your goal a reality. And that's a good example of that. So this is what I wanted to talk about tonight. Nothing big strategies, right? Other than just a few reminders here at the end. When we get to episode 21, I really want to start sharing more about this life is messy concept and how that I want you to hear some more of my struggles in the actual classroom so you understand that, oh, wow, this guy isn't, he doesn't come off as, oh, my life was great as a teacher and I want to make your life the same way. I had a great career. I had a great teaching life. I still miss it. But I also dealt with a lot of challenges. There were times when I was on the canvas like a boxer, trying to get to the count of 9 to get up before they called me a knockout at 10. And so there were times when I was on the ropes. I'm using the boxing analogy, but I was on the ropes getting pummeled, but I found a way to stay in it long enough to regain my bearings and to win in the end. And that's what I'm going to focus on these next few, to give you some things, some strategies, but more to uplift and motivate you to know if I did it, you can do it too. So thank you for listening tonight. I hope you enjoyed our rest stop today and that you'll be ready to get back in the car and continue on our journey starting in episode 21. Until then, remember, best year ever. You have the power to make it happen.